Welcome to the silent personalities. In the autumn of 1066, a single battle decided the fate of England. But the story behind that moment began decades earlier with a boy born into danger, violence, and uncertainty. Long before he crossed the English Channel with an army at his back, William of Normandy was fighting for his own survival in a world that doubted his right to rule. Branded a bastard, surrounded by enemies, and raised amid betrayal and bloodshed, William's rise to power was neither inevitable nor easy. His life would become a story of ambition forged by hardship, authority built through force, and a conquest that permanently changed the course of English history. William I, later known to history as William the Conqueror, was one of the most influential figures in medieval European history, a man whose life reshaped England politically, socially, and culturally in ways that are still visible today. He was born around 1028 in Falaise, Normandy, in what is now northern France. His birth was controversial from the beginning because he was the illegitimate son of Robert I, Duke of Normandy, and a woman named Herleva, who was not Robert's wife. Because of this, William was often mocked and referred to as William the Bastard, a label that followed him for much of his early life and made his position extremely insecure in a society that placed great importance on legitimate birth. Where William was only about 7 years old, his father died while returning from a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Before leaving, Robert had declared William his heir, an unusual and risky decision given William's age and illegitimacy. As a child duke, William's early years were marked by chaos, violence, and betrayal. Normandy descended into near anarchy as powerful nobles rebelled, fought each other, and tried to control or eliminate the young duke. Several of William's guardians were murdered, sometimes brutally, and William himself was often moved from place to place in secret to protect him from assassination. These dangerous years shaped his character, making him cautious, ruthless when necessary, and deeply aware of the importance of authority and loyalty. As William grew older, he began to assert control over Normandy, with the support of King Henry I of France, who was technically his overlord. William defeated rebellious Norman nobles at the Battle of Hastings in 1047. This victory marked a turning point, allowing William to establish real authority as Duke. Over the following years, he worked relentlessly to strengthen his rule, crushing revolts, redistributing land to loyal followers, and enforcing order. By the 1050s, William had transformed Normandy into one of the most stable and powerful principalities in France. He also gained a reputation as a capable military leader and a strict but effective ruler. William's ambitions, however, extended beyond Normandy. Across the English Channel, England was ruled by Edward the Confessor, a king with strong Norman connections who had spent much of his youth in exile in Normandy. Edward had no children, and the question of who would succeed him was a source of great tension. According to Norman accounts, Edward promised the English throne to William during a visit in the early 1050s. William also claimed that Harold Godwinson, the most powerful noble in England, later swore an oath supporting William's claim. The English version of events disputes these claims, but what is clear is that when Edward died in January 1066, the English nobles chose Harold Godwinson as king, crowning him almost immediately. William saw Harold's coronation as an act of betrayal and a direct challenge to his rightful claim. He began preparing for invasion, carefully gathering support from Norman nobles, securing ships, weapons, and horses, and seeking legitimacy from the church. Crucially, William obtained the backing of Pope Alexander II, who sent him a papal banner, allowing William to present his invasion as a holy mission rather than mere conquest. This religious approval helped unite his followers and weaken opposition. The year 1066 became one of the most dramatic years in English history. While William was preparing in Normandy, England faced multiple threats. Harold Godwinson was forced to march his army north to repel an invasion by the Norwegian King Harald Hardrada. Harold won a hard-fought victory at the Battle of Stamford Bridge in September, but his army was exhausted. Almost immediately afterward, news arrived that William had landed on the southern coast of England with his forces. Harold rushed south, gathering troops along the way, and met William near Hastings on October 14th. 1066. The Battle of Hastings was long, brutal, and decisive. Harold's army fought on foot, forming a shield wall on high ground, while William's forces combined infantry, cavalry, and archers in a more flexible fighting style. Several times during the battle, the Normans appeared close to defeat, and rumors even spread that William had been killed. At a critical moment, William lifted his helmet to show his men he was alive, rallying them to continue fighting. Through a combination of tactical retreats, sustained pressure, and archery, the Norman forces gradually broke the English defense. By the end of the day, King Harold was dead, reportedly struck by an arrow and then cut down by Norman knights. The English resistance collapsed, and William had won his greatest victory. Winning the battle did not mean immediate control of England. William advanced cautiously, facing resistance in several regions. He marched around London, devastating the countryside to intimidate opposition. Before the English nobles finally submitted, on Christmas Day 1066, William was crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey. The ceremony itself symbolized the tension of the moment, as Norman guards outside the abbey, misinterpreting the shouts of the crowd, set fire to nearby buildings, causing panic. Despite this chaotic beginning, William was now officially King as ruler of England. William faced the enormous challenge of controlling a conquered land, whose population largely viewed him as a foreign oppressor. He ruled with a mixture of force, law, and administrative reform. English rebellions broke out repeatedly in early years of his reign, especially in the north. William responded with extreme brutality during a campaign known as the Harrying of the North. Between 1069 and 1070, villages were destroyed, crops burned, and livestock slaughtered, leading to widespread famine and death. This ruthless policy effectively crushed resistance, but left deep scars on the land and people. William also transformed England's ruling class. Almost all Anglo-Saxon nobles were dispossessed of their lands and replaced with Norman lords, loyal to the king. This created a new aristocracy that spoke French, followed Norman customs, and owed its power directly to William. He introduced a feudal system in which land was granted in exchange for military service, ensuring that loyalty to the king was the foundation of power. At the same time, William was careful not to allow any one noble to become the powerful, often scattering their lands across different regions. One of William's most remarkable achievements was the creation of the Domesday Book in 1086. This was an extensive survey of land, wealth, and resources in England, designed to help William understand exactly what he ruled and how much tax he could demand. The survey was extraordinarily detailed for its time, recording who owned each piece of land, its value, and how it was used. The Domesday Book symbolized William's desire for control, order, and efficiency, and it remains one of the most important historical documents of medieval Europe. William's reign also had lasting cultural effects. The Norman Conquest introduced a new ruling language to England, as French became the language of the court, law, and nobility, while Old English remained the language of the common people. Over time, these languages blended, shaping the development of Middle English and, eventually, Modern English. Norman architecture transformed the landscape as well, with massive stone castles, cathedrals, and churches built to assert Norman dominance. Structures like the Tower of London served both as fortresses and powerful symbols of royal authority. In his later years, William faced challenges from within his own family. His sons, particularly Robert Curthose, rebelled against him. Unhappy with their inheritance and eager for power, William also struggled to maintain control over both England and Normandy, a difficult task that required constant travel and military intervention. In 1087, during a campaign in France, William was injured when his horse stumbled, causing severe internal injuries. He died shortly afterward in ruin, even in death. William's story reflected the complexity of his life. His body was reportedly too large for the stone coffin prepared for him, and when it was forced inside, it burst, shocking those present at the funeral. He was buried at the Abbey of St. Etienne in Caen, a church he himself had founded. His lands were divided among his sons, with William II receiving England and Robert Curthose inheriting Normandy, a division that would later lead to further conflict. William's story is ultimately the story of power won through struggle and maintained through iron resolve. From a threatened child mocked for his birth to a king who bent an entire nation to his will, his life was defined by survival, ambition, and control. The England he conquered was never the same again. Its rulers, language, laws, and even its landscape were permanently altered, though his methods were often brutal and his reign marked by suffering as well as order. William achieved what few rulers ever have. He changed the direction of a country's history,